Welcome everyone. Today I'm going to discuss my first track test with the C5 Z06 and the Honda S2000. I took these two cars out to Autoclub Speedway and I already posted the videos of the track test. Now the C5 Z06 was about 3 seconds per lap faster than the S2000, and this was a little bit surprising to me because I didn't fully set up this C5 Z06. I'm going to go over the setup in detail on both of these cars right now, starting with the S2000. So with this S2000 here, you know that I took it out to the racetrack and it was supercharged at that time, and I blew up the engine and I went back to naturally aspirated here. You can see the supercharger is gone. We just have a cold air intake in here now. And the reason I did that is pretty simple. One of the reasons I like the S2000 is because it's very fun to drive. The supercharger adds a lot of weight right in front of the shock towers, and that creates a driving characteristic that I don't really like on the racetrack. You're actually changing the weight balance of the car, and the S2000 is more fun with this engine, you know, stuffed way back here and not a lot of weight up here. And so I decided to take that out and run a naturally aspirated setup. The S2000 is probably not going to be that much slower on the track because I was having some heat issues with that supercharger. Even with an oil cooler and the oversized radiator, I was having some heat issues. And so this should still be a ton of fun out on the racetrack. Now, going over to the brakes, we have StopTech Big Brake Kit on here, and that's because the stock Honda S2000 brakes are a little bit limited when you start going to the high-speed tracks and getting really deep into the braking zones. And so I went with a big brake kit here, and it's a little bit hard to justify because S2000 rotors are so inexpensive that it's hard to justify the cost of the big brake kit, but the results are well worth it. Not only the cost savings, but also the improved braking performance. And I had a lot of trouble with the stock braking system. This seems to work a whole lot better. I'm running Project Mu Club Racer pads in the front, and the StopTech Big Brake Kit also comes with a two-piece rotor, which helps keep the bearings cool, so my wheel bearings should last longer on the racetrack. Another important thing, when I bought this engine from a guy on the S2000 Classifieds, there were some problems with it. Even though I compression tested it and everything was fine when I bought it, I installed it and then I had problems with the cooling system overheating sometimes, and with the S2000 that usually indicates that there is an air leak somewhere in the system. And this hose right here on top of the intake manifold had a small crack in it and was leaking air into the system and causing it to overheat sometimes. The other thing I found is that when I left the car parked for a long period of time, it would leak coolant on the ground, and I found that it had this silly plastic Honda gasket. This is a Ricer mod that people put on their Hondas, and it's supposed to keep your intake manifold cooler, but it's really dumb because it melts. So this was melting and causing the coolant to leak when the car would sit. And so I returned the gasket to a stock metal Honda gasket. Other than that, this car is ready to go. The suspension is a double adjustable coilover, compression and rebound damping. This is a KW-V3 setup. Other changes that I've made to the car are a stiffer front sway bar, a racing seat, and a racing steering wheel. So very simple build here. Let's go talk about the Z06 now. So with the Z06, getting this car out to the track, I did the minimum amount of modifications to get it out on the track and put down a decent lap time. And that was putting base model C5 rims on the car and these Federal RSRR tires. These are about $400 for the set. Very inexpensive tire, very good tire for the money. And then I put two-piece rotors on because the stock C5 brakes for me have not done well on the track. So I just jumped right to a good two-piece rotor. I'm already seeing signs of cracking on the rotor, and maybe I'll get 4 or 5 track days out of it. And that's pretty good. These brakes are very good. Now I did the minimum amount to get the car to stop quickly on the track. I just put an endurance compound in the front and a sort of compromised brake pad in the back. And the Corvette has a fantastic braking system that handles it really well. You can see from the video that I was still pulling 1.2 Gs in the braking zone with these little tires and just a front endurance racing compound. And that's just incredible. The Corvette is a really great car. I mean, it's almost unbelievable how great a car it is because you can pick these up for nothing. Now, the weaknesses of tracking a stock Corvette, you'll run into problems with your clutch hydraulic system. If you don't have that freshly bled with some very high temp fluid, you'll find your pedals sticking to the floor. And even though I bled mine with the Ranger method, I still had problems with the clutch pedal at Autoclub Speedway. And so I might have to upgrade my master cylinder, but we'll talk about that in another video. The other thing I'm going to want to do is pull off my clutch inspection plate and see what's going on in there, see what I have in there, and make a decision, maybe modify or upgrade that. Now, the other thing about tracking a stock Corvette is the cooling system is a little bit inadequate. And so I saw very high oil temps and very high coolant temps. So that's another thing that I'm going to want to address if I continue to track this car. Another thing that you'll notice when you track a stock Corvette is that oil will be coming out of the front of the car, and that's because you really need to install a catch can. And as far as oil starvation on the turns, Autoclub Speedway is known for eating engines, all sorts of engines. Lots of people blow up their engine at Autoclub Speedway. And so with the Corvette, it is highly recommended that you overfill the oil in order to avoid oil starvation. However, if you're running on a square setup like many people do, you can really push the limits of the oil system. And so one of the reasons that I am on this smaller setup is to avoid stressing out the car. I would like my Corvette to last, and I don't need that extra few seconds that the bigger tire setup will provide. I'm not racing, I'm not in competition with anybody, and so this inexpensive setup is the way to go for me. So going forward from here with this car, I'm going to want to put a catch can on the car. I'm going to want to upgrade the cooling a little bit, and then finally I'm going to want to take a look at the clutch because I was having issues with the clutch hydraulics. I might just go in there and throw an upgraded clutch in to fix that and put all new hydraulics in there and make everything work, because if your clutch hydraulics are failing on the racetrack and you're grinding the gears, it can be a whole lot more expensive than just a clutch replacement to fix the car. You might be looking at a new transmission, and because this Corvette already has a new transmission in it, I don't want to have to pay for that. And with the suspension on this car, I upgraded it to the newer C6 Z06 shocks, and they are absolutely incredible on the track. I can't believe it, honestly. The compression damping is so much improved over the C5 Z06 shocks. I was just blown away. I mean, I could just plow over curbs and the car would not get upset. It was so easy to drive the car. Take that for what it's worth. I really enjoyed the newer C6 Z06 shocks. It's a very inexpensive upgrade. And I'm probably not going to be upgrading the suspension anymore on this car. It's just overall fantastic. That's it. That's it on these two cars. The S2000 is good to go. This Corvette needs quite a bit of upgrades. So if you want to check out those two videos, I'll link them at the end of this video. The two videos between the S2000 and C5 Z06, of course. The C5 Z06 lap time is faster, and one of the reasons that is because the track that we were at was full of straightaways, and the C5 Z06 just destroyed the S2000 in acceleration. The S2000 was having a lot of issues with heat, and so there's about a 3-second difference between the two laps, but if we go to a different racetrack, we'll probably see different results. That's all I have for you right now. Thank you for watching. Make sure that you enjoy your car.